LP 2000 right back at you with another video. Yes. Welcome back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews. And let me preface this by saying this, ladies and gentlemen, this will be the last video of 2021. Oh my God. At the time of this recording, it is December 30th, 2021. And I know I probably won't get anything out tomorrow on New Year's Eve. So basically, this will be the last video of 2021 on my channel. It's been an awesome year. I've had lots of great box days. I acquired some great pieces this year. But unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. So before we go into 2022, let me tell you what I got on my last box day of 2021 and how appropriate, because since this is the final video on my channel 2021, it's very appropriate. I'm talking about something or a monster involving the last film in the illustrious Heisei Godzilla film series. More on that later. So without further ado, let's dive head first into this awesome X Plus 30cm Rick exclusive figure review. And today we're taking a look at the X Plus 30cm Rick exclusive edition of the special edition of the 1995 Godzilla. Best of a super cool appearance in the final Heisei Godzilla flick. The awesome, the epic Godzilla vs. Destroyer or Destroyer. I say Destroyer or Destroyer. Doesn't really matter. It's like Anguirus or Anguillus, or King Ghidorah or King Ghidorah, or Jaguar or Jaguar, or Biollante or Biollante. It just depends on who you talk to. It doesn't really matter. But either way, Godzilla vs. Destroyer or Destroyer, either way. It's a great title. But yes, this is the special edition 95 courtesy of X Plus. And as you can see, he's not burning because this is actually the Rebirth Godzilla. Yes, Godzilla Jr., the adult Godzilla Jr. that will go on to become the new King of the Monsters at the end of that awesome film. And this is the figure review that we're doing today. Yes. Now, before we go into the box, let me switch things up a little bit and talk about the backstory with me getting this figure. Now, mind you, I just got this figure, I want to say the second or third week in December 2021. It wasn't really showcased at a show or teased at an online show over the past year, I should say. It just popped up on the Rick site one day and said, hey, this is what's coming. And I'm actually a huge fan of the sculpt of the Burning Godzilla. You know what I'm saying? I really do enjoy this sculpt. Now, mind you, this figure is based off the original sculpt of the original 30cm 1995 Godzilla courtesy of X Plus that came out, I want to say, 2017. Yeah, so it's been a few years, 4 years, and they brought back this sculpt to make it into the 95 here, at least the Rebirth 95, I should say. And actually, this is the second 95 Godzilla figure courtesy of X Plus in a 30cm Rick exclusive line, because a couple months ago, I want to say October, they brought out the 1995 Godzilla Rick exclusive, and it's the clear version. It's basically the same Burning Godzilla as the 2017 version, but the burning patches are akin to the Sakai. Remember the translucent patches on the Sakai 95 that came out a few years ago? So they applied the same translucent burning patches on this new version of the 95, courtesy of the 30cm line, and it came out, like I said, a couple of months ago. I got that figure too. And we have seen X Plus do this before, right? I just think they had this sculpt ready to be made into other figures, because we have seen X Plus do that before. Like, for example, the X Plus Gigantic Shin Godzilla, where it's the closed mouth version or the roaring version. We have seen like 3 different paint variants of the Gigantic Shin, where there's the roaring, the gigantic roaring with the red standard colors, but his mouth is roaring, you know what I mean? Or the purple one that came from the Godzilla store, I want to say, I think it was last year or the year before, 1 or 2. Or the original purple Gigantic Shin, you know what I mean? Or speaking of Burning Godzilla, how about the Burning Godzilla, the gigantic Burning Godzilla from X Plus? The original came out in 2014, which in my opinion is the best one. They reissued that same sculpt of the gigantic Burning Godzilla from the San Diego Comic-Con version, you know what I mean? Where they had brighter orange patches and the tail was permanently attached. They reissued it into the Frozen Gigantic 95, where it was the same sculpt, but it had frozen patches all over his body. It came with the mini Super X3, you know what I mean? So there have been examples where X Plus has taken over the existing sculpt, like I said, and repackaged them into new figures. And again, they've done that twice this year with the 30 centimeter 95. And again, I love this sculpt. So that's why I really had no issue getting the clear version a couple months ago and getting this Rebirth version here. And quite frankly, a lot of collectors have been asking for a Rebirth version of Godzilla. Because again, we have gotten multiple burning Godzillas from X Plus over the years. The Gigantic, like I said, the Sakai, like I said, the original 30 centimeter, like I said, the 25 centimeter, you know what I mean? So we've gotten so many different burning Godzillas over the years, but we have not gotten anything as far as the Rebirth. But X Plus decided once again to take advantage of this sculpt and repackage this into the Rebirth Godzilla, aka Godzilla Jr., and it looks really, really great. So that's the backstory with me getting this figure, you know what I mean? It's an amazing sculpt. It's an amazing figure. So that's pretty much it with the backstory. Now let's go into the box. Once again, this is the picture of the box, you know, with the picture of the figure. Godzilla 1995 in Japanese text. I believe the Japanese text at the bottom of his name is Special Edition, which is kind of weird to me because, again, I wish they would have named this the Rebirth Godzilla, because that's what people associate with when they see this Godzilla. It's the Rebirth Godzilla. So, but again, they call it the Special Edition, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. I know they're trying to make it different from the clear version that came out a couple months ago, but still, calling it the Rebirth wouldn't have hurt, you know what I mean? As a matter of fact, speaking of boxes, the box is really no different than the clear version box. You know, as you can see here, both similar boxes, both pictures of the figures. One is burning, one is not, you know what I mean? But both figures, at least both artwork on the boxes of both figures, look really, really, really great. And so that's it with the boxes. That's it with the backstory. Let's get up close and personal with this guy right here. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the X Plus 30 centimeter Rick exclusive special edition of the 95 Godzilla. Won't be so much of a long up close and personal, because we've seen this before, you know, when it comes to the Heisei versions of Godzilla, when it comes to X Plus, whereas it's the Sakai 84, the original 30 centimeter 89, the Sakai 91, you know what I mean? Typical Godzilla with the charcoal gray on his body and the bone white color on his dorsal plate. It's really nothing really special. It's just the 95. It's not burning. That's basically what this is. But again, if you're a fan of this figure, or at least a fan of this design of Godzilla, you owe it to yourself to add this into your collection. Now, I know the SH Monster Arts put out a Rebirth Godzilla a few years ago, and that figure looks great, but I think between the two, this one might be the better one. So if you can go after one, I suggest you go after this one. I believe there's a couple left on Awesome Collector, and there's certainly a couple left on eBay right now. And they're not really overpriced at this point. So if you want to jump on one, the time is now to try and get one before they do become horribly overpriced. But if you're a fan of this design, or a fan, you know, of the Rebirth Godzilla, you owe it to yourself to go after this figure. Now, let me bring up some pictures where I compare this to the clear version that came out a couple months ago. As you can see here, both figures are similar in terms of sculpt, you know, whatever. They both look amazing. They both look awesome. The one thing I wish that this Rebirth had, that the 95 clear version has, in terms of his toes, the darker shading on the Rebirth toes, I don't really particularly like that in a way. I mean, it's okay. It's not a deal breaker for me, but I wish that it had more of the lighter shading on his toes like the clear version does. You know what I mean? That's the only really nitpick I would give this Rebirth 95. You know what I mean? But both figures look really, really good. Especially the clear version. Like the orange patches on that thing look so amazing. You know, the orange on the dorsal plates. Oh my God, it looks so good. I'm having a tough time really deciding which one I like better between the two 37 burner Godzillas that I do have. The original or this clear version. It's kind of hard to pick, quite frankly. They both are amazing, but it's really, really hard to pick. I kind of lean towards the clear version because I like the translucent burning patches on that figure. It looks really organic. It looks really like he's burning. When you twist him in certain lighting conditions, it kind of pops out a little bit more. You know, take nothing away from the original 2017 95, but the clear one kind of has more of an organic, realistic feel. You know what I mean? But again, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to review that figure. I'm kind of hopefully making up for that right now. But again, if you can find that figure for a good price, please go after it. You will not be disappointed. Now, let's go back to the main God of the Hour. Let's go back to the Rebirth 95. Now, again, once again, from head to toe, the sculpt looks amazing. The charcoal gray on the skin looks amazing. The dorsal plates look so amazing. The individually sculpted teeth looks amazing. The color of the mouth looks so awesome. His eyes look really good. And don't forget, the 95 was actually a modified 94 suit. You know, the Godzilla suit that appeared in the previous film, Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Basically, the 95 suit was a modified version of that. And I actually have the Toho special effects books of the 94 Godzilla. And as you can see here, this figure could really pass for the 94 in certain respects. Now, the dorsal plate arrangement is not truly accurate to 94, you know, but there are certain shots in the book that looks dead accurate with the figure here. And it looks so good. So even if you have other 95s you could pair this on your shelf with, he looks great up against the 37mm Mogera and the 37mm Space Godzilla that in which you will see in size comparisons momentarily. So it has a dual function. It can pose as a Rebirth Godzilla from 95, or it can pose as a 94 stand-in for a potential Space Godzilla setup. And until we do get a proper 94, this is the best thing that you can go for right now. I know a lot of people love Space Godzilla, even though that film is not universally loved by a lot of people. But if you're into setups like I am, and you have Mogera and you have Space Godzilla, you need this figure. You need this figure to have the best setup. But once again, you'll see that momentarily in size comparisons. But again, not much to really go into, because I've said this many times before when I have reviewed Heisei figures, you know, with the color on his body, the color scheme on his body, on his skin, the tree bark light skin, you know, whatever. Even though I've been through this many times before, this is still a great figure, and I'm so glad to have this in my collection. And again, I'm glad to go out on this note of 2021. So that's pretty much it with the backstory, the boxes up close and personal. Oh my God, this thing's amazing. Again, if you can find one for a good price, either on Awesome Collector or on eBay before they do get too horribly overpriced. And if you're a fan of this design, you owe it to yourself to go after this figure. Trust me when I say that. Yes. So now, you know what? I know I put up some inserts of this version of Godzilla with the clear version that I got a couple months ago. But you know what? I'm going to bring all three 30cm 95s that I have in my collection in the first size comparison, and we'll go back and forth on that. So let's go with the first size comparison with the 30cm 95s I have in my collection right now. Okay, folks, here is the first size comparison, and yeah, all three versions of the 30cm sculpt of the 95 Godzilla, courtesy of X Plus. Yes, and these three look so awesome. So from left to right, we have the original 2017 Burning Godzilla. Of course, the Man in the Hour in the middle, the Rebirth Special Edition 95. And of course, to the far right, we have the clear version of the Godzilla 1995 Rick Exclusive Edition. Oh my God, all these figures are amazing. You know what I mean? They look so awesome. And you're probably wondering which one is my favorite. And it's so tough. It's kind of hard. It really is hard. If I had to go from my most favorite to my least favorite, it would be the clear version 95. Then it would be the Rebirth. And then it would be, lastly, the 2017 original Burning Godzilla 30cm. And don't get me wrong, I love the 2017 version, you know what I mean? But just in terms of the burning patches on his body, I just love the clear version more, because he looks so more organic and more so lifelike, like what we saw in Godzilla vs. Destroyer. And if I didn't have the gigantic 95, I probably would have the clear version as my favorite 95 in my collection. But I had the big boys, so he will always get the top spot. But again, the burning patches on the clear version just look so good. And as you can see here, even though they're similar figures, they do offer a different take of the 95. You know what I mean? And so if you're a fan of this design or of the 95 Godzilla, you owe it to yourself to go after, if not one of them, go after all of these figures, because they're amazing. They really are amazing. All right, so let's go with one more size comparison. And I mentioned earlier that the Rebirth Godzilla figure can actually stand in as the 94 or stand in for the 94 Godzilla, you know what I mean? And I mentioned the 30cm Mogera and the 30cm Space Godzilla from X Plus I have in my collection. So let's bring those figures together and see how that setup looked from the 1994 film. So let's go with that final size comparison right now. Okay, folks, here we are with the last size comparison. And yes, I mentioned them earlier alongside the X Plus 30cm Rick exclusive edition of the special edition 95. Yes. And I mentioned he can stand in for the 94 or the Moge Goji, I think is what it's called. You know what I mean? From Space Godzilla. And of course, here are the two other monsters, or three other monsters, I should say, from the 1994 film of Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Of course, we have the 30cm Mogera. We have the 30cm Space Godzilla. And of course, down at the bottom, we have the little mini Rick extra that came with the 25cm Space Godzilla. And Little Godzilla. Now, I know Little Godzilla maybe a little bit too small in comparison to the other monsters, where it's not truly accurate to the film, but you can't tell me that this setup does not look great. You know what I'm saying? Even though that little hiccup with the size comparison between Little Godzilla and the other monsters, this is a killer setup. You know what I mean? As I mentioned earlier, this figure is so amazing. The fact that you can have it as the Rebirth Godzilla, or you could pose it with these figures from the 94 movie, whether you have him up against Mogera. They look awesome together. Where you have him up against Space Godzilla. That's an awesome image right there. Of course, Little Godzilla, having them two paired together. Oh my God. It's like the possibilities are not exactly endless, but you have some options. You have some viable options with this figure. Whether he stands alone, whether you have him with other 95s, or whether you have him with the Space Godzilla crew here, you have some great options. And you know me, I love setups. I love creating setups based off these films. Whether they're my favorite film or not, I still love them putting these random figures together to create setups. And this is a great looking setup. Mogera, Space Godzilla, Little Godzilla, and of course, Godzilla Jr., the adult Godzilla Jr., I should say, or the Rebirth 95. This is a killer setup. No question about that. I'm so glad to finally have this figure in my collection, or at least a proper version of the Rebirth Godzilla in my collection, and I couldn't be even happier. So between the 95 comparison earlier, the Space Godzilla comparison here, this figure is great. It is great on all fronts. There's no question about that. Alright, so that's it with the size comparison. So let's go with my final commentary portion of the video. So let's do that right now. Okay, folks, I'm back with my final thoughts of the X Plus 30cm Rick Exclusive Edition, or the Special Edition Godzilla 1995, aka the Rebirth Godzilla. Once again, 10 out of 10. This figure is amazing. Now, I know a lot of folks don't really like when X Plus rehash old figures into new figures. You know what I mean? They argue, you know, that time and effort could be devoted towards bringing out something new that we haven't seen before. And there's a case to be made for that argument. But in certain cases, sometimes these reissues, or what they do for a reissue, is actually really good. And it makes it stand out, you know what I mean? Even though this figure, you know, hardcore Godzilla fans know the difference between the 95 Godzilla over, let's say, the 93 or 92, you know, whatever. But still, there's a story behind it. There's a story behind this particular version of Godzilla. A really tragic and bittersweet story behind it. So I'm able to forgive it this time, you know what I mean? Once again, reissues are not exactly a bad thing, but I can understand how some people are done to death with reissues. But I think certain reissues, for the right circumstances, really makes the figure pop out more, in my opinion. And as you saw in the size comparisons earlier, you know, I have the other 95s, you know, the Space Godzilla crew, you know, whatever. They're both great setups, but I think the one I probably would go with more so now, and ironically, even though I haven't been too kind to this film on my channel, I actually like the Space Godzilla setup more. Just seeing him paired up with Mogera, Space Godzilla, and Little Godzilla, even though the size difference is kind of off with Little Godzilla. But seeing all those four monsters together, you can't tell me that that makes for a killer setup, despite the little issue with the size comparison. You know what I mean? And who would have thought that I would favor Space Godzilla over anything else, you know, considering that I haven't been too kind to this film on my channel. But I can't deny the fact that those monsters, at least those figures, look great together. And again, the 95 was a modified 94 suit. And this figure could stand in as a 94 until we get a proper 94. This is the best one that you can find, especially if you want to complete that setup for Space Godzilla, you know what I mean? So that probably will be my setup going forward. But either way, this is an awesome figure. And again, this is the Rebirth Godzilla. So let's talk about that before we roll up out of here. Now, I've always said when it comes to the Heisei series, the Heisei series always leads back to Godzilla. It always comes back to him. You know, the whole Heisei series is about, you know, Godzilla coming back after a 30-year hiatus, and now Japan, the modern day of Japan back in the 90s, had to figure out some type of way to deal with this monster, how to coexist with this monster. A more grounded approach than what we saw with the wacky, whimsical way of the Showa series, right? And then with Godzilla coming back, then that led to Biollante and King Ghidorah, Bactra, Mothra, Mechagodzilla, Space Godzilla, and Destroyer. You know, it brought all these horde of monsters into this super cool universe, but it all goes back to Godzilla in some way, shape, or form. It all goes back to how humanity needs to deal with him, or how they would deal with him. But when they brought out 1993's Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla with the inclusion of his son, Godzilla is, even though he's a threat, he's a menacing force of nature, he's not really an evil force of nature like he was in the prior 4 films, I should say. He kind of shed some of that fearsomeness. But with the inclusion of his son, Baby Godzilla, which we evolved into Little Godzilla and then Godzilla Jr., we see Godzilla not only as a menacing force of nature, but carrying parent. No different than what we saw back in 67, 68, and 69, right? And so each version of Godzilla's offspring, from Baby Godzilla to Little Godzilla to Godzilla Jr., every single version of his son is really the catalyst and the reason why he ends up fighting the monster that he fight in those films, right? Because in 93, he was called to Japan basically by Baby Godzilla. He ends up running into Mechagodzilla and they fight because of it, right? In 94, when Space Godzilla first touches down on Earth, he doesn't attack Godzilla first. He actually attacks Little Godzilla and imprisons him, which sends Godzilla into a vengeful rage and makes him want to go after Space Godzilla. And we all know what happened in 95 with the supposed death of Godzilla Jr. at the hands of Destroyer. You know what I mean? So every single version of Godzilla's son really is the reason or the beginning or the catalyst why Godzilla ends up fighting Mechagodzilla, Space Godzilla, as well as Destroyer. And I actually like the evolution of Godzilla's offspring in the Heisei series. You know what I mean? Nothing against Minya, because I have nothing against Minya. I enjoy Minya. But a common criticism that I've seen and heard when it comes to Minya is the fact that we never really see him fully evolve. Now, we saw him evolve a little bit in Son of Godzilla, but he pretty much stayed the same in Destroy All Monsters and Godzilla's Revenge, even though technically that film is not really canon. But we never seen Minya evolve more than what we did when we last saw him. But at least with Baby, Little, and Godzilla Jr., we saw pretty much a natural evolution from film to film to film, which is one of the cool things about the Heisei series, the fact that it has great continuity, which is something the Showa series wasn't the best at, to be honest. But still, you have that continuity. You know what I mean? And like I mentioned earlier, with the later half of the Heisei film showing Godzilla in a less fearsome light, right? Again, he's still dangerous, he's still a threat, but we see him more as a parental parent. He's not coming to Japan to destroy Japan because he has nothing else better to do. There's a reason why he's there, and more often because of his son. You know what I mean? So it's about seeing Godzilla more in a different light with the later Heisei films. But when you sit down and think about it, it's also about Little Godzilla, or Godzilla's offspring, ascension into becoming the new Godzilla. You know what I mean? Because we all know their original was going to end it with 93, but they decided to carry on with a couple more movies. You know what I mean? So we end up getting this awesome moment at the end of Destroyer, which, let me just say this, and this is my opinion. I don't expect everybody to feel the same way as I do, but I think it was a mistake to actually advertise Godzilla's death in the marketing of Destroyer. It basically says it on the poster that Godzilla dies. So you know going in that Godzilla was going to die no matter what, which is really somber and really depressing when you really think about it. But I thought it was a mistake to advertise that. I thought it would have been more impactful had you not known that Godzilla was going to die. You still could have said, because at that point, we knew that the 98 film was coming and they were going to wrap up the Heisei series in preparation for that film. So you still could have said that this is going to be the end of the Heisei series, but not really telling us that Godzilla was going to die. So I thought that it would have been more impactful if you went into this movie blind, not knowing about Godzilla was going to die, but yet you're hit with that. But then it would have made the moment that happens after that, when we see little Godzilla, or at least Godzilla Jr., become the new Godzilla, a more feel-good moment. But that's just my opinion, you know what I mean? I also think that hurts Destroyer's credibility as a kaiju. Take nothing away from Destroyer, he looks awesome. He looks evil, satanic, basically the devil himself if the devil was a kaiju, right? But I never bought him as like one of his toughest opponents, because you knew going in that Godzilla was going to die no matter what, which in my opinion kind of hurts Destroyer's credibility. You know what I mean? But still, at the very, very end, when we finally see Godzilla Jr. become the new Godzilla, who we thought was dead at that point, but it was a cool moment. After we see Godzilla die, which was depressing, and then we see the radiation subside, and then we get closer and closer. We see something moving in the radiation fog, and we see that familiar Godzilla silhouette, and then it dawns on you that Junior didn't die, and he's actually the new Godzilla, and will become the new King of the Monsters, and he gives off that old school Showa roar, and the movie ends like that. That is so awesome. And in my opinion, that is the best way to kill Godzilla, to deal with Godzilla's death. You know what I mean? Even if they didn't make the MonsterVerse films or the Millennium films, if the Godzilla film franchise ended with Destroyer, the way they handled it, I would have been fine with that, because I can't think of a more epic way, especially with the longevity that Godzilla has had over the years. Gonna be 70 years in 2 years, in 2 years coming, right? I couldn't think of a better way to kill off Godzilla, or at least to end his legacy on a really high note. And I know some people have theorized, or fan theorized, that Godzilla Jr. would end up becoming the new Godzilla in the Millennium film 4 years later. But that's just fan theories. I haven't heard anything or seen anything confirming that the Godzilla Jr., the adult Godzilla that we see at the end of Destroyer, is the new Godzilla in Godzilla 2000. I think it was fine the way it ended right there, because it symbolizes that no matter what, Godzilla will always be around. Godzilla will always be forever. Forget Thanos. Godzilla is inevitable. No different than what we've seen with Mothra over the years, right? When one dies, another one takes its place. The same thing happened to Godzilla. You know what I mean? And it made for an iconic moment. And that's what I see when I had this figure. You know what I mean? That's why I love being a collector. That's why I love collecting these treasures, because every single monster, at least a figure I have in my collection, has a story behind it. You know what I mean? And with this figure in particular, it's a bittersweet story. But again, the story at the end of the day is no matter what, Godzilla will always be around, and Godzilla will be inevitable no matter what. Yes. So that's my thoughts of the Rebirth Godzilla. Once again, I think it's an iconic moment. It's kind of hard to argue that it is an iconic moment. You know what I mean? But this is great. So if you can find this figure for a good price, once again, Awesome Collect may have a couple. You can find a couple on eBay right now for a good price before they skyrocket in price. You know what I mean? So if you love this design, I know I said it many times before, but if you love this design, you owe it to yourself to have this guy in your collection. Trust me when I say that. So that pretty much concludes my review of the X Plus 30cm Rig Exclusive Edition or Special Edition of the 1995 Godzilla, aka the Rebirth Godzilla. Yes. Based on his iconic appearance in the final closing moments of the epic finale of the Godzilla Heisei film series, Godzilla vs. Destroyer. Yes. If you have any questions, comment down in the comment section. Hit me on Facebook via Leslie Chambers. We'll definitely go from there. Yes, once again, great figure. I'm so glad I got this guy. You know what I mean? Even though, again, it's the Rebirth Godzilla, but my God, that Space Godzilla setup is awesome. And again, this figure is amazing, and again, I know people are kind of tired with the reissues or whatever, but make an exception for this guy, because this guy is so worth the investment, you know what I mean? And I think once you get it into your possession, once you get it in your hands, you will understand how awesome this figure is. And again, as I mentioned earlier, this will be my last video of 2021. I know in my last video of the Mondo Mothra, I know I teased at the very end that the next video, which would have been this video, was going to be my review of the KOC 1964 Godzilla kit that I got over the summer this year. Trust me, that review is coming. As a matter of fact, I got a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline in terms of reviews. I got that one. I got the gigantic Burning Godzilla 2019 to review. I got my hands on the Billiken Gargantuous. I got to review that. I'm doing a double figure review of the Death of Real 89 Godzilla, as well as the Biollante Death of Real. I'm getting my hands on a couple of kits that my co-host David F. Dopko is working on me right now. So hopefully I'll get those. Hopefully before January is out. So I have lots of stuff coming here on the channel in terms of reviews. But again, this is the last video of 2021. I've had an awesome time dropping this content for y'all. I'm sorry if I've been kind of hit or miss with the content. I just been real busy. It's not because I didn't have anything to review. I just been real busy with other things. But still, y'all have stuck by me. Y'all have told me that y'all enjoy the content. Y'all still are here for me. And I really do appreciate it. But again, the highlights of this year, oh my God, I'm planning on doing a haul at some point, so please stay tuned for that. But my God, the Spyro Studios King Ghidorah, the KOC 64 Godzilla, the Mondo Mothra, the Roto Kaiju Kong 62, this guy right here, the Rebirth 95. I have had an awesome year collecting. I've been truly, truly blessed. Just like I'm sure a lot of y'all have been truly blessed with what y'all have gotten this year. You know what I mean? So it's been a fun year 2021. But again, all good things must come to an end. So as we say goodbye to 2021, let's hope for bigger and better things in the year of 2022. In the meantime, get this figure. You would not be disappointed with the X Plus 30cm Rick exclusive edition of the special edition 1995 Godzilla, aka the Rebirth Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Destroyer. Yes, yes, yes. So thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I will see y'all again on this Figure Move review. All right. Y'all take it easy. Happy New Year, and I will see y'all in 2022. Take care, folks.